myself today.
This is a psychological situation we're facing.
To see if I still
Once they sell you on the lie of killing Kennedy in broad daylight,
focus,
with hundreds of witnesses seeing the men behind the fence shooting,
the only
once you buy into that lie, now you're committed to buy into even more lies, like 9/11, or WMDs in Iraq, or the White House memo, where Bush is telling Blair, we can get a U.S. aircraft shot down and blame it on Saddam. We can stage events. We're premeditatedly lying about WMDs. That's a form of false flag. The Gulf of Tonkin now declassified, getting us into Vietnam was staged. Over 1 million Vietnamese, 58,000 Americans, 200,000 maimed. We're going back to our guest here in a moment. Don't forget to support this radio broadcast and to get materials that will wake the public up to what we're facing. The public is awakening right now, but they need the hardcore info. Like Police State, The Rise of FEMA, my newest documentary, proving the total police state grid that's being set up in the U.S. Everybody needs to see this. My 15 years of research condensed into this film. Invisible Empire, New World Order Defined by Jason Burmis, just came out last month. Breaking down the globalists, their mindset, how they use terror, how they use narcotics trafficking to control things. Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic, that I'm featured in and consulted on. Michael Bagnerick, Richard Mack, Charles Key, R.J. Harris, and many others. Taking back states' rights, taking back local sovereignty. The Republic versus the democracy. All in Don't Tread on Me, available at Infowars.com. And you can also call toll-free to get the films, 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. Now, going back to our guest, Alan Hart, again, author, former chief correspondent for independent television and BBC, expert on the Middle East. You got cut off. You were trying to clarify something that I was speaking about, dealing with stage terror and 9/11. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I wasn't quite saying that only Israel and Zionists had motivation, because the network is Israel, there's Zionist supporters here, but the whole of the neocons, who are, some are Zionists, some are not. Some are plain old-fashioned Americans like Dick Cheney. But also there is this alliance with the Christian fundamentalists, the so-called Christian Zionists. Now, I think, frankly, and I think I've never said this before publicly, I think that what that alliance actually wants is a clash of civilizations, Judeo-Christian be Islamic. I think that's what they would really like to provoke.
And that's why they let them build a giant mosque on the ruins of 9/11. That's why it turned out it was an intel op doing the Muhammad cartoons with him with a bomb on his head. Well, they say they want a clash of civilizations in the PNAC documents.
Yeah, but Alex, you just used a word which I'd like to pick up on, a phrase, police state. Now, you know we had a prime minister called Edward Heath.
Yes.
Not too long ago. Soon after he left office, my wife and I had lunch with him. And I said, Mr. Heath, what is your biggest fear for the future? Remember, this is a British prime minister. I thought he would talk about global poverty because he had been involved with it, as I had. But he didn't. He said that Britain will become the first police state in the so-called democratic world. Now, this is a guy who's been prime minister, who knows how the system works. And he's telling me that he fears Britain will become the first police state. No doubt you've read, Alex, George Orwell's 1984, yeah?
Yes, that's what he envisioned coming to fruition in England if things weren't reversed.
Well, I go further, Alex. I think the Western world is on that road and well on it. You see, I don't think democracy exists anywhere in the world, because for it to exist, citizens, voters, have to be informed enough about issues to participate in debate and to be able to call...
No, I agree. It's manufactured consent. It's INGSOC. They have removed the language and debased it down to such a level that you can't even have a communication with the average person.
That's right, but the problem, I would go so far as to say, in some important respects, democracy exists least of all in America, because what passes for democracy is simply for sale to the highest bidders. It does include the Zionist lobby in association with the Christian fundamentalists. It does include the banks, the drugs, the military industrial complex. We know them all. I mean, it seems to me that it really doesn't matter who the hell is in the White House, who the hell is in number 10 Downing Street in London. They are, to a very large extent, puppets of a very tiny minority of vested interests. And that's why getting the truth out to mobilize citizens to make their democracy work is so important.
Well, you're right. I mean, there's really 5 big lobbies, and they're all interconnected, literally intermarried. And they all want the same thing. They want to keep the war on drugs going because they're shipping in the illegal drugs. They want to push their deadly pharmaceuticals on us and have forced inoculations. They want, more tyranny. The Defense Department and the private contractors are now taking over the police departments, the red light cameras, the surveillance, the iPhones, the computers. They are privatizing the police state and then literally absorbing the once free society. But I want to expand on things that you brought up here, because I've studied 9/11 in depth. I said they were going to attack the World Trade Centers 2 months before it happened. I could see the preconditioning in the media that was taking place. And your research in the Middle East, of how the Mossad and Shin Bet have infiltrated all these groups, that's on record. But it's more than that. We know, according to Colonel Butler, the head of the Defense Language School, and the AP and Newsweek and other publications, they hide this in plain view, that many of the hijackers were trained at U.S. bases, and we know they were taking part in drills, infiltration drills, and believed they were government agents. And we know Israelis were paying for their houses, were paying for their apartments, were giving them money. I mean, this has come out even on Fox News. So, but that goes further than the Israelis just piggybacking on a Muslim operation. And all I want is the truth. How do you have these guys trained at U.S. bases?
Yeah, but I mean, one of the fascinating things about the whole unfolding drama is the film of what I call the 5 Dancing Israelis. Of course, you're aware of that film.
Yes.
You pull out and you see one of the planes going into the building, and you see these 5 guys virtually dancing, all on mobile phones. Now, you know, and I'm sure most of your listeners know, that they were originally reported as being just foreigners, maybe presumed Muslims, and the FBI gave chase, didn't they? And they tried to avoid arrest, but they were eventually caught, and surprise, surprise, they all turned out to be Mossad agents. Now, I think it's not unreasonable to speculate that on their telephones, they may actually have been calling in the planes to the buildings. Yeah?
Calling them in. Well, if they were GPSed, it would already be a pre-planned coordinate.
Well, that could be, but if they weren't, they may have had some kind of transponder in which they were calling them into the targets. But, I mean, the point is, the guys were there, and they knew in advance it was going to happen.
Well, I've talked to the sheriff because they ran to New Jersey, and I've talked to the sheriff on air who arrested him. I mean, it's not, I mean, that went on.